This is money. Used electric car sales triple in 2 years as plunging prices make second-hand EVs more attractive. By Rob Hull, an EMU motoring editor. Updated 11:41 BST, 22nd of August 2025. Almost 22,000 used electric cars were sold in the month of July, which is nearly 3 times the volume of transactions seen in the same month in 2023. New market analysis shows. 3 times more. So they sold 7,000. The used car market last year was 7.5 million. I've said before, the whole of used EV sales didn't amount to half the total increase year on year in the used car market. Not half. 2.5% of all used cars were electric. So this headline is garbage. Used electric car sales triple in 2 years as plunging prices make second-hand EVs more attractive. They've sold 14,000 more. Whoopee! They sold 68,000 Fiestas last month, I think it was, in 1 month. This is just garbage, honestly. It's just using percentages and 3 times more without putting it into context, because it's rubbish. But this rise in sales is being driven by an increasing imbalance between ever-expanding stock levels and limited public demand, which has seen depreciation hit hard and used prices tumble. Well, yes, it's cheaper to buy a new EV, is a lot dearer than a new ICE car, but equivalent, 12 months old, same mileage, same spec, it's worth less, so they lose more. So yes, I admit you get better value. If you don't mind, so long as you can charge at home, they're pretty much a no-brainer. Sorry, with a bit of a proviso. So long as you can charge at home and you don't mind putting your family in danger every night when you're charging, they're a no-brainer. But my advice to you is, if you do buy one, forget about saving money overnight. Charge at home, charge at night when it's light, your family's awake, and then when it's charged, go and move it outside. Park it in the street, not up the side of your house. My advice, take it if you want. Some guy said yesterday that all the cars, all the EVs he's sold have never set a light. Well, I've been selling cars for 50 odd years, and as far as I'm aware, none of the cars that I've sold to customers have ever set a light. I've had one pinched by the IRA and turned into a bomb. I've had one that caused a bomb scare at a police station. I sold a car to a policeman. He went on shift, and it had an Irish plate on, and he evacuated the police station. I've sold one that caused a bomb scare at Heathrow Airport. One of my customers went on holiday. Again, we used to have a contact in Ireland, and we used to buy a lot of vehicles from them, and they had Irish plates, and some people decided they wanted to keep the Irish plates because you couldn't tell what year they were. So Heathrow Airport, hello, is that Fort Motors? Did you sell this car? Yes, we did. Oh, who did you sell it to? A nice bloke who sells photocopiers. It's just that it's in the car park here and we thought it might have a bomb in it. No, you're okay, don't worry. So it would seem that it's rarer for a nice car to set on fire than it is to cause a bomb scare. You see how you can work statistics and you work them to your advantage? All these people saying nice cars set on fire like nobody's business. Well, no, they don't. They don't. As such, a 2-year-old EV is now typically losing more than half of its original value, while the average petrol, diesel and hybrid model retains around 3/4 of its first purchase list price. So they're worth 25% more. How much do you think you save on electric? Here we go. Used electric car sales triple in 2 years as plunging prices make second-hand EVs more attractive. But you see, who benefits from plunging prices? Who benefits from cheap houses, for instance. You can't get a mortgage on a cheap house, or if something needs building work, you can't get a mortgage on it. So it's just cash buyers. It's cash buyers that benefit from these cheap EVs. If you get it on finance, it's cheaper to get, if you get it on PCP, it's cheaper to get a new one than it is to buy a used one. These headlines, they just make no sense whatsoever from a motoring editor. So let's just get that straight. 2-year-old EV is now losing 25% more than a diesel, petrol or hybrid. 25% more. But it's not just that, because EVs cost more. So your 25% of an EV is probably 30, perhaps 40% of an ICE car. That's how much you lose. So by buying an ICE car, that's how much you're saving. You're saving 40% of the price of your ICE car. Now, that was mathematics done in my head, so don't shoot me if it's completely wrong, but you get my gist. Fueling this dramatic fall in residual values has been the Labour government's recent decision to tax EVs for the first time in April, and a flood of announcements by car makers that they are delaying new electric models and plan to go fully electric amid slower than anticipated sales of new EVs. Confirmation in April that hybrid cars will be on sale until 2035, 5 years after new petrol and diesel models will be outlawed by ministers, has also seen appetite for these cars grow both on the new and used market in recent months. Well, forgive me for pointing out the obvious, but they are petrol and diesel cars, but they've just got a little electric battery that actually makes the fuel economy worse. The hybrids apparently set on fire more than just a normal ICE engine. So you've got that. And then you've got, they're more expensive to fix if anything goes wrong. And trust me, it does go wrong. And when it goes wrong, it's a fortune to fix. We had a Lexus hybrid. I'm not kidding. Out of all the cars we've ever had, we had the most trouble with that. And nobody could fix it. We got a guy in the end to fix it, but honestly, we spent a fortune on it. Right, so here we go. Experts say this is making EVs more attractive to second-hand car buyers who can currently get their hands on a more premium model on the same budget if they choose battery power over petrol or diesel. Now, again, I'm gonna experts. Do you know why they call them experts? Because they talk shit. You see, if that was me and I told them, they could say, Barrie Crampton says, because hand on heart, the only thing I say to you, I 100% believe it's true. In my experience leads me to, and my research leads me to believe it's true. So their experts say. Experts are people who don't want people coming back on them in 6 months' time and saying, well, you were wrong about that, you tosser. Experts, not experts, just people who don't want to go on the record as having said something. So experts say this is making EVs more attractive. Well, I'm not an expert. My name's Barrie Crampton. But at the moment, what you'll find is that if you buy an EV, especially on finance, especially on PCP, it will cost you more than buying an ICE car, because an ICE car will have a better residual to start off with. It's cheaper by the time you take the fuel, even if you get free electric. Trust me, it's cheaper. I worked out last year, 2 years ago and so on, when they were saying it was cheaper to run an EV, it was actually cheaper to run a 5-litre Mustang than it was to run a Nissan Leaf, a Kia Niro, a Tesla and all the other stuff. A 5-litre Ford Mustang. That was if you got your electric for free. And nothing much has changed here now. Here we go. Changing used car residual values by fuel type. Data shows average value retention for 24-month-old cars, diesel, electric, hybrid, petrol and PHEV. You'll see there, oh, what's that pink line there? You know, all those others, much of a muchness, and then you've got kind of a pink line here, where it just bombs. Now let's look at this. 1. High used car prices driven by supply shortages, February 22nd to April 23rd. That's when they were hiding vehicles to keep the residual values up, because they thought they could do it. They thought they could create a shortage, they thought they could keep selling new cars without a discount, and they also thought that 12 months down the line residuals would still be so high that they could reintroduce these delivery mileage cars that have been pre-registered and hidden and not lose any money, because cars would have gone up. But they got that wrong, didn't they? So 2. Normalised supply resulted in sharp price correction, May the 23rd, April 24th. Yes, it did. But it wasn't normal. It wasn't normalised supply. It was the fact that they created a shortage and they run out of money. They weren't selling them like they should have done, and they got found out. Everybody thought they were selling them. Everybody thought they were going to lease, but they were just parking them up places. 3. This is funny. Used car prices stabilised June 24th to May 25th. Diesels and petrols were going up when electrics were going down. That's how they stabilise. You see, when they say stabilise, they mean averaged out. So EVs are here, ICE cars are here, stabilised is in the middle. See what I mean? Well, it's not stabilising, it's averaging. EVs averaged out. Cox Automotive data based on vehicle list prices new versus Mannheim auction value 2 years later. Plug-in hybrid FEV data only available from April 23rd. Statistics supplied by automotive intelligence provider MarketJet UK shows that used EV stock has boomed by 149% between July 2023 and 2025. Retailers had just 21,995 battery-powered cars on their forecourts in July 2 years ago, while this year's inventory was far greater at 54,720 vehicles. Now also, what I would point you, what I would draw your attention to is, probably about 12 months ago, there was about that amount of vehicles on Auto Trader. Now there's about 30,000, 31,000. But here, the inventory is actually 54,720. What do you think those vehicles are? Do you think those are all the delivery? Do you think those are all the pre-registered EVs? I think they are, aren't they? And you'll be able to go into a dealership and buy any colour, any make, any model for a massive discount. Anyway, so it's jumped by 149%, and the increase in availability has translated to a 192% jump in sales. But the sales were virtually nothing. Here we go, rising from 7,500 to 21,902 EVs being snapped up. The EVs were snapped up. The EVs, the 3.3% of the used car market, EVs were snapped up. But they weren't, were they? Because there's an overspill, there's an overflow. The market is being added to, it's growing. The used unsold EVs are growing. So they're not being snapped up, they're just being bought by people, used car buyers, by people whose needs they suit. Snapped up 3.3%, while 96.7% by, well no, let's say 96.7% snap vehicles up that have got an ICE engine. Now that sounds more like it, doesn't it? It sounds to me like 3.3% bought an EV, but all the others were snapped up. Rubbish. Snapped up my backside. But there has also been a significant decline in prices over the same period, which reflects the increase in competition. It's not competition. It's if you have to give something away and not make profit, it's not competition. It's distress selling. They don't half talk rubbish. Based on data collated from 11,500 UK retailers, the average advertised price for an EV slipped by 19%, falling more than £5,000 from 27,762 to 22,547 in the 24-month spell. Yeah, right. You wish. You wish. Comparing this to average used petrol car prices shows not only the far smaller scale of second-hand EV market, but also less price volatility triggered by stock, driver demand, government announcements, and the economic climate. The used car sales market is going up. Retailers had only 29% more inventory of second-hand petrol models in their showrooms and forecourts in July 2025, 484,348, versus the same month 2 years earlier, 376,517, which translated to more sales. Dealers shifted 40% more cars, with retailers moving on 193,637 used petrol examples during the 7th month of this year, compared to only 138,782 in July 2023. So that, let me just say, so dealers shifted 40% more cars, with retailers moving on 193,637 used petrol examples. Oh, but hang on a second. 21,902 EVs were snapped up. Yet petrol car prices have remained far more stable, dropping by less than 5% from £16,165 to £15,386, despite the increase in choice available to customers. That's because they want them. They're selling them new and making a profit. They're holding the price better. You see, when something drops, when something depreciates, it's not a bargain. You don't want it. You want something that doesn't depreciate and holds its value. And especially if you buy it on PCP, because you're only paying a bit of profit and the difference between what it's worth now and what it's worth when you bring it back at the end of the contract. And some interest. If you're paying for something that's dropping like a stone, you can just forget it. And that's what EVs are doing. Alistair Campbell from Market Check UK said the data suggests the used EV market is hitting its stride. With the highest number of used examples ever sold in a single month, and at the lowest average price we've recorded. He thinks that's a good thing. He's just said they're mucking them away. They're mucking, and that's not taking into account all the ones that they're pre-registering and selling them delivery mails at a massive discount. He added, in just 2 years, prices have dropped by more than £5,000, while sales volumes have surged 3.3%. Oh, dear me. That combination of falling prices and rising demand shows the market is becoming both more accessible and more mature. For many UK buyers, a used EV is now a realistic and attractive alternative to petrol and diesel. Well, it's not. Separate analysis by Cox Automotive also reveals a bigger contraction in values for EVs compared to other fuel types. For the same month in July 2025, the average 2-year-old EV retains just 46% of list price. 2-year-old, less than 46%. This is based on the recommended retail price of electric cars 2 years ago and not the price paid by drivers who likely paid a discounted rate versus their auction sale value last month. But hang on a second. They're bringing over cap cleaning, according to some EV people in the auction. That can't be right, can it? I wonder who's telling the truth. Cox Automotive or KE15 MPY. While this is particularly bad news for owners who bought new EVs outright, and for finance companies who have been left with less valuable cars at the end of customer contracts, the substantial depreciation means second-hand buyers are getting far more motor for their money if choosing electric. No, they're not actually. They're paying for it good and proper. Using the same measure, 24-month-old petrol cars hold on to 64% of their original price. Diesels have slightly better residual values. Nobody wants diesels, don't forget. Diesels, nobody wants them. Electric vehicles, sales are surging. Diesels are dropping, but the prices are going up. Keeping 66% of their new price after 2 years. But this hadn't always been the case. Reviewing Cox Automotive's historical data, it shows that in November 2022, hybrid and EV residual values were achieving near parity, retaining 90% and 88% of their new price respectively, a stark contrast to the depreciation seen today. As I've mentioned before, they were hiding vehicles, and it wouldn't surprise me if there isn't a huge class action in future, because it's obvious what they were doing. It's obvious to me. Why is it not obvious to these people when they say here, look, right, what could cause that? Reviewing Cox Automotive's historical data, it shows that in November 2022, hybrid and EV residual values were achieving near parity, retaining 90% and 88% of their new price respectively, a stark contrast to the depreciation seen today. Philip Northard, Insight Director at the Automotive Group, said hybrid vehicles are a lucrative opportunity for UK drivers and the automotive market today, which is evident in the success of many new market entrants coming to the UK with hybrid offerings. They deliver a clear lifetime cost advantage over internal combustion and electric vehicles, making them an attractive option for buyers hesitant or cautious about making a full electric transition. Now, this is fun. I'll go on to this in a minute. James Buxton, CCO at used EV sales platform Car360, said that the focus often falls on steep EV depreciation but overlooks the crucial truth that new EVs are simply priced too high to begin with. If that's the case, how come when they've dropped to less than half price at Car360, they're having to reduce them every week, every day, every month until they finally give them away? And I can show you that. I've showed you in the past. That is wishful thinking. What he says and what is the, what does he say? The crucial truth is that EVs are bombing. And he doesn't want them to bomb because they just sell EVs. He needs them to stop bombing. And he'll, no, I won't say it. Looking ahead, we expect this dynamic to soften as demand for EVs continues to climb 3.3% of the used car market, and manufacturers launch a new wave of models priced more competitively with their petrol and diesel equivalents. Well, again, as EV batteries go on, I believe BMW are going to be hopefully wiping the floor with the Chinese with their new battery. Good on you, BM. Just don't put the M Sport suspension and run flat tyres on them, or you'll just spoil it. That shift will help stabilise residual values. It won't, because as I say, there's more new cars with longer batteries, and nobody will want these old ones because they'll be able to get new ones on a PCP cheaper than you can get the old ones. If you're a cash buyer, you'll be able to buy an old one But if you're not, you won't, because it will be cheaper to buy a new one, because it'll be worth more, and it'll probably cost less to start off with. You'll get a massive. So that's rubbish. That shift will help stabilise residual values, but right now it's creating one of the best value entry points into EV ownership we've ever seen. Well, up until the end of 2022, 2023, they were lying and hiding stuff. So, you know, you've got to laugh. Thanks for watching. See you in the next video. Bye bye.